everyone, it's Erica. I wanted to have this next video focus on the coming out process and everything that went into that. It was an extremely stressful time, and I guess I should backtrack and say that what's making me think of this today is that I recently went to a high school to speak at their GSA, or their Gender Sexuality Alliance, and basically just share my story and answer like some questions for them. Whether it was regarding hormones, transitioning, coming out, because that experience of coming out is unique to both gay individuals or trans individuals, really anyone along the LGBTQ spectrum. You're going to have to come out because for the majority of people, it's, going against like the norm of society. So, everyone assumes you're one thing unless you come out as the other. And that's something that I do hope changes in the future, that there isn't really a need to come out, and that you can just feel free to have no assumptions made about who you are, who you love, what your identity is, what pronouns you use, and you can just kind of be raised in this kind of neutral zone and figure yourself out. But in the absence of that, we have to, as LGBTQ individuals, come out to those that we love and those that we need support from. So in speaking to these kids earlier today, they asked me about some of them are out to their friends and family, some of them are not. They had asked me about my coming out process, both at work and personally. So, it's fresh on my mind. It's very important. It seems so far behind me that I almost forget about that process, which is so weird because of how much it consumed almost all of my thoughts during that period of my life. So I'm going to share that process for you, basically what I did both personally and professionally in order to come out. I would say that for me, some people may find it a lot easier than others. For me, I found this to be one of the most terrifying parts of my transition. The thought of coming out to others and letting them know that, I was a woman and I was different than who they thought they knew for 27 years, was so irreversible and just so mind-numbingly frightening that I didn't really know how to begin. And I shared those thoughts with my therapist that, I didn't really know what to do or how to deal with this process. And she shared with me what I think is one of the most crucial pieces of advice for my coming out process. And that is to not think about what you have to say, to not think about what you have planned, whether it's a speech, whether it's just notes, whether it's in your head, to not think about any of that. And just, if you're having trouble finding the words or saying what you're thinking, then, what she recommended to me was that I just sit down and I focus on one sentence, and this one sentence alone. And that is, there's something important that I need to talk to you about. Just that one sentence. There's something important that I need to talk to you about. And once I said that, in my mind, it was basically as if the first domino was pushed over, and there was number one, no going back, and number two, it kind of just set the stage for that conversation that, this is very important, take this seriously, and all I had to do was go from that point on. But once I guess just saying that one sentence kind of removed a lot of the pressure at first. I just had to think about that, and then I would just go with it. So, for that being the first piece of advice, what I found through that was from my therapist, my own personal other points of advice in coming out to people, especially if it's your first time or your first couple times and you're afraid, is to, again, focus on that sentence. Number two would be, frame the conversation. So when I would meet up with these people, I wouldn't just meet up with them out of the blue and drop this bomb on them, basically, that I didn't feel would lead to a good ending. So I would say with all of the people that I came out to, I went up to them and I scheduled a meeting or a call if they were super far away, like my stepbrother in Germany. And I let them know beforehand that the purposes of me meeting up with you is to share this crucial piece of information with you. It's to share something about myself, and I would ease their concerns. I would let them know that I am, I'm not sick, knock on wood, I'm of good health, and I just need to communicate something that is going to affect our future relationship together and my future specifically. So frame the conversation. And then lastly, the last piece of information I would say is to not only find like to find like a location in which to come out that is suitable for you, like not even a neutral location, like just one where you feel safe in. This is an event where you need to feel at your most comfortable, and you're trying to get support from someone. You're sharing this information with them with something in return. You're being vulnerable with them. You're exposing yourself, and that is a very strong and powerful conversation to have. But what you're asking from them is their support, their understanding, and their care. So doing this in an environment that is suitable for you and helpful for you will make this conversation so much easier. It'll make you more at ease. And ultimately, I think it'll just lead to a better outcome. So, the three most important things, again, the three pieces of advice: find a location that's suitable for you, frame the conversation, let them know ahead of time so they're not caught off guard. And when you do sit down to come out, if you're just like choking on your words and you can't say anything, just say the sentence, "There's something important I need to talk to you about." And hopefully the rest will follow. At least that's what it did for me. I used that when I spoke to my partner at the time, my now ex, my mother, father, brother, you name it. A lot of the initial conversations that I had coming out to people, I started off with that sentence. And honestly, by the end of this whole process, it got to be so monotonous, and so mundane that, I didn't really have to think about it. I didn't want to not place importance on this conversation to those that it came out to later. So it was actually kind of tough to keep that level of seriousness or severity when I spoke with them. Not that I was like joking around during it, but it was just interesting, the change in mindset from like the first people that I came out with to and the last people. So yeah, I really hope these pieces of advice help you. And now I'm going to move on to just maybe share more of my specific story, just so you could see kind of like how I went about this process, in addition to, how I use those three pieces of advice to tell my story and to come out to others and build my network of support. Okay, so, my personal story, how I came out to those that I loved, was very, I would say, meticulous. It was very well thought out and planned out and somewhat calculated, I guess, to a degree, but that's kind of like who I am by my nature. I was terrified. I was afraid. I wanted to make sure that I was set up for success and that the people in my support network, would be there for me. So basically, you're not going to come out to someone who you're unsure of in the beginning, because if they react negatively, then you have no one to turn to about this. So it's almost like building layers, of a cake, or like, just building different layers of warmth, of comfort, of support. And you come out to the people who you feel most comfortable that they will support you in the beginning. And I really do hope that there are people in your life that will support you. So come out to those first, the people you feel closest with, that you can be most vulnerable with. And, share that part of your life with them. Again, following those three pieces of advice that I went over before. So, you start with the people that you feel most comfortable sharing this information with, and then you add from there. And over time, you have more and more people in your support network that you can go to and that you can turn to when there's something upsetting about coming out to maybe someone else, or something else upsetting in your transition, in your journey, or whatever you're going through. You may not be transitioning, you're just trying to come out to people. So you need people in your corner, and it's best to start with those that you feel most assured will be there for you. So what I did is I kind of like, I made a list in Excel. Just, you can make it on a notepad or whatever, but I'm an accountant. I love Microsoft Excel. It was like a very easy way to organize a lot of the early parts of my transition. So I just made a list of like 40 or 50 people in Excel. And some of them were people I, like, how do I say this? Some people I needed to come out to before others. I wanted to come out to my partner at the time, first and foremost. Well, my mother, I actually ended up being first. Then it was my partner at the time. Then my brother, then my dad, and like aunts and uncles. And like I kind of built out from there. I started with my family units. And then also like, once my brother knew, I kind of started also coming out to different friends as well. So there were certain people that I wanted to absolutely know first. I was pretty sure that they would be there for me. My partner at the time, I actually wasn't sure, but out of respect for her, I, I just had to tell her. And like, she was there in a supportive way, and she helped me build my support network. But we did not ultimately end up staying together. But that, I think, was addressed in another story, and I honestly don't need to get into that. Um, so out of respect for her and the relationship that we had, I told her very early on, and then I started telling other people. It was, I kind of like to see the analytics of it in a way, like not to like dehumanize or depersonalize. It was a very vulnerable, raw person. I've used that word vulnerable a lot. I think there's a lot of strength in vulnerability. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that that's like been my tagline for probably a year now or more, is finding strength through vulnerability. And in order, like, you both need strength to be vulnerable, to open up to others. It requires a certain degree of strength. And also in doing that, it helps you heal. It helps you find support. It helps you gain more strength. So I think there's a lot to be said about being vulnerable and being open with others and sharing your truths. And, I basically, I went about this process in a very, raw, vulnerable way. I like had something prepared, but I would say I rarely stuck to the script. It was just like guide points to, like it was points to guide me in case I got distracted or scared, as I was telling my coming out story to people. So as I like came out to different people, I put a little X next to them. I put the date that I came out to them, and like it was just really interesting to see like how it all progressed, and like how over time I was coming out to more people more rapidly, and just that whole how that whole process unfolded. I think I started coming out to the earliest people in like September of 2017, and then by the end of that year I had come out to basically everyone. And on January 1st, 2018, I just blasted it on Facebook, not for the attention. There are people that probably thought it was for attention. Honestly, like, I won't deny that coming out on Facebook will garner a lot of attention. That is obvious. But I did that specifically to kind of just get it out in the open. I didn't want to slowly be coming out to people over time, over months, years, or whatever. I just wanted it to be out there. And not only that, I wanted to control the message. So hundreds of people found out from me at one day that I wanted to, and I controlled the messaging of how they found out. And I found power in that. And I found a lot of strength in that, and just comfort as well. Just knowing that it was kind of like ripping a Band-Aid off. It was really scary, but that was the process of how I went about it. So yeah, that's kind of like my personal coming out story. It just took like a couple of months, 40 to 50 people. I did want to see a lot of them in person. The ones I couldn't, I had a Skype call with. And then I just ripped the Band-Aid off on New Year's. After I had gotten through everybody, basically, after I checked everyone off the list. Okay, so next I just want to quickly talk to you about my coming out process at work. I was really terrified about coming out at work. It's not that I thought anyone would be like particularly not supportive. It's just that I'm in a client service type job, and I don't know, I was worried about like, not being saleable and not being able to be engaged and deployed at clients, and that would ultimately affect how I was perceived by my company, and that would be the limiting factor in, staying employed, getting promoted, you name it. So my main fears were just, as a trans person, will I be able to get a new client? Will I stay on this client that I'm currently on? So, with that being said, I was very hesitant to really let anyone at work know. I think it was maybe like, I think I had like one or two close friends at work that I was able to build up some trust and confidence with them and share this story with them, very confidentially, very informally, and just ask that they were, very private with this information. And I was able to trust them. So after that point, I built up my support network. I told a lot of people personally. And then in that time, I was also working with the Mazzoni Center in Philadelphia. And for those who don't know, this center is, it's where I go for like, my hormone care, my medical care. They specialize in helping trans people, but they also just have a normal, practice. But they specialize in trans care. So I was able to eventually go there for my medical needs. They also have support groups, so you can go there for emotional needs. I think some therapists are located there. And then lastly, they also have like a legal center. And, they can help you with the process of coming out at work, looking up the employment laws, or unfortunately, if you were to have like an issue that you would need to work with them, like a discrimination issue that you would need to talk with them, they could help you through that process as well. They also had documents for the name change process, but I'll get to that in a future video. So I reached out to the Mazzoni Center and I basically just told them what I was looking to do, the fact that I lived in Philadelphia, my company was headquartered in another state, and my home office was Philadelphia, but I also worked in another state, and I was just like, which laws apply to me? What, I think the exact wording in my company's anti-discrimination policy was they listed like all of these protected classes, right? Race, sex, religion, ethnicity, you name it. They listed all of these protected classes. Gender identity wasn't specifically or like explicitly listed. And then they just had a blanket deferment that says, or any other class protected by local, local regulations or laws or something. So without it being explicitly stated, I really had nowhere to go. And I was looking up like the laws, like for Delaware, for Pennsylvania. Now I think like in Pennsylvania, trans people are not protected against discrimination, but Philadelphia specifically is, and that's where I live. But again, like I said, companies headquartered elsewhere and I work elsewhere with my clients. So I just had no idea where to start. I had no idea where to turn to for which laws applied to me. And quite honestly, I was frustrated that I even had to look that up, the fact that I was unsure about what my future standing at this company was. So I just spoke with the Mazzoni Center. They were able to give me a lot of resources that helped me feel more comfortable. They were, resources that I could then take to my company and give them and show them that I thought about this. And, here's some help for you, because as big as my company is, I think we have around 1,000 people around the country. I'm pretty sure I'm the first and only out trans person at this company. So I've really had no roadmap. I had no one to look up to, really, or no one that had done this before to turn to for questions. So I was on my own, basically, with respect to my company. I gathered these resources. I'll try and find the links to them to share down below. Hopefully I'm able to do that. So I gathered these resources and I basically, scheduled a meeting with the head of HR and with my direct supervisor. And again, similar thing. I just told them that there was something important I needed to talk to them about. My boss had asked for more information, but really there was nothing I could say that, short of just, coming out. So I just said, unfortunately, I can't really reveal any information at this time, but, I'll talk to you during the meeting. So I started off the meeting the same way I did all the other coming out experiences, said that there was something important I needed to talk to them about. I shared my story. I told them how I felt, how I identified, and, immediately my boss was very quiet up front, but the head of HR was, expressing support, asking what that he could do and what they could do as a company to support me and make sure that I felt welcomed and, as I've mentioned, supported at this company. So, in this process, I told them about everything I had thought through, about all, different scenarios, like how I felt like it would make sense to move forward, but I wasn't dead fast or committed to a certain plan. Like, first of all, I was pretty unsure about what would be best, honestly. I wanted their input, and also this is affecting them, just like it's affecting me. So we needed to work together on a best solution to move forward, and I wanted to be respectful of that. They really appreciated the fact that I was, willing to work with them and to, not just start the very next day as Erica, and start presenting female. I think from the time I came out to them, maybe a couple weeks later, I had an email sent out to a number of key people in my company that I felt like would need to know. And then a number of weeks after that, I let my client know what was happening in my life. And then a couple weeks after that, I had my full-time date. So it was a bunch of few week increments to just work to the next stage of letting different people know and, what the plan was, and, just taking it from there. So it helped me breaking it down into all those different pieces, but it also helped me, I would think, from my company, in my company's eyes, just that I was careful. I thought everything through. I wasn't rushing into everything, and, I was taking this seriously because it is pretty serious. It's affecting, like, although nothing changed, it's like, a lot of, or like everything's changed in a way. Once I came out to the client, and once I went full time, that was kind of like the finalization of all this process. I'd come out to a number of people, I'd come out a number of times, and I was ready to kind of close this chapter. I think being prepared, thinking through everything, there's this plan that I worked through that I can also try and link below. If I can't do that, I will link to a blog post I have written up in which I'll share. I have like a lot of these documents shared. So at the very least, you'll see my blog, a link to my blog post about this experience, and you'll be able to like look at the documents, look at the references, and be as prepared as you can be for this process. Some employers, you need to be this prepared to have this conversation, and some employers you honestly won't. So this is for the people that feel like they're extremely nervous, extremely scared, and they really, really need to be prepared about it. For those of you that, I would say luckily don't have to be as prepared or aren't as afraid to have this conversation, more power to you. I wish you the best of luck as well. So hopefully you gained something from this story, and, if you have any other further comments about my coming out process, about any other tips, advice, references or resources that I used in my process, please feel free to ask me below, and I'll try to get to them. If you enjoyed this video, you can like it and subscribe to my page for future videos. So again, I really, really hope this helped you, and I will talk to you in another video. Bye.